Today is a special event. We have 4 people with us who are going to share their story, their experience with starting, launching, and then running organic waste drop-off stations in the United States. We'll have Scott Atkin from the town of Manchester in Connecticut, who's going to start sharing his experience, and then we'll have Emily Williams. She's with the city of Hailey out of South Central Idaho. And then we will continue with Michael Helmbach from the city of Coconut Creek down in Florida. And our last speaker will be Todd Rossi from Big Leg Organics out of Ashland in Wisconsin. So we'll have three people that have the perspective of a city or a town, and then Todd is working in a private business, an organic waste hauler. So I think we'll have a really nice panel. And yeah, I think I don't want to talk too much about organic waste drop-off stations, why they're important. I think, or I hope most of you guys are aware of why they are. And I think we'll get that from these stories that we're about to hear. So we'll have about 30 minutes for these 4 presentations. So we'll try to keep it relatively short and concise. And then we'll use the rest of the time to do Q&A, do a little bit of a discussion, and hear from all the participants. And I want to just hand this over now to Scott Atkin from the town of Manchester. Scott, thanks for being here and sharing your story today.
Thank you very much. Good day, morning, night, wherever you happen to be. Everyone so I'm from the town of Manchester, Connecticut. We're about 60,000 residents, about 16,000 different housing units, residential housing units here in town. So before starting our food scrap drop-off programs, we had a couple of different composting activities that we were already involved with here in town. We have leaf collection and yard waste collection, both at the transfer station and curbside in the fall, which we windrow here at our landfill and transfer station site. And we produce compost both to give away to our residents, as well as we'll sell it in the late summer or early fall to get ready for the next season. We also have a community drop-off program, which included both yard waste and food scraps over at our community gardens, and the compost generated there is used for right on site. So people in Manchester are used to seeing different composting activities. Go ahead and move on. We started a food scrap collection program last year. The goal was to try to divert some of the waste from our MSW stream. There's not a lot of MSW trash options here in the eastern U.S., or at least here in Connecticut. So some of our materials go to a resource recovery facility, but a lot of them end up getting shipped hundreds of miles out of state. And we were interested in food scraps, not only for the diversion, but also for the environmental benefits, reducing that travel for T&D for some component of our waste stream, producing compost, and producing a form of renewable energy from the aerobic digesters that our materials are currently going to. When the town was looking into food scrap drop-off, things that we were balancing or considering were the high startup costs for curbside collection. Like I said, we do trash, recyclables, yard waste, and a couple of bulk pickups every day or every week for residents. So this would be a pretty big additional startup cost for bins and barrels. The operating costs for collection and transportation were going to be pretty high. Some recent studies here in state showed that participation rates where it was done curbside, nearby at sort of the neighborhood level, not even town level, were less than 30%. And so, doing that for over 16,000 residential dwelling units didn't seem like it would be good economic sense. And also, high levels of contaminants that you generally see if you have a curbside collection. So we started this pilot program to try to gauge our community interest in food scraps collection. So we ended up putting them in 4 different locations around town, plus at our transfer station. The 4 locations shown here, sort of north, south, east, and west. We try to make them as convenient for folks as possible. We put all of them at destinations that people are currently going to. So the transfer station, the senior center, one of the libraries, and then a park that gets quite a bit of use. And it's equipped with a pool. So this time of year, it's getting a lot of use. We looked at several different types of collection containers, the pricing, the ease of access, the accessibility. We settled on, for our own use here, the metroSTOR container. We liked the access through the mobile app. We liked the foot pedal, which is shown in the bottom left of the picture, to make it not quite hands-free, but a little easier for folks to get to. We did have to permit each location. It was generally a pretty easy process here in Connecticut for satellite collections, but we did have to permit those with the state. And originally we had planned on a weekly collection schedule. As things got busier and hotter last summer, we did go to twice a week, summer and the fall of last year. Our funding is from 2 main sources for this program. We operate a landfill and a transfer station, so we're a little separate from the town budget. We have an enterprise fund set up, so there's some access for that. And then the other source of some of our funding is Connecticut a few years ago passed a miniature alcohol bottle fee. So for every nip purchased here in the state, 5 cents goes back to the town that it was purchased in. And that's supposed to be used for waste diversion and litter cleanup activities. So we use some of our nip money. We're one of the larger towns that get some of the bigger refunds. I guess that's unfortunate, but we're doing some stuff on litter and waste diversion with those funds. So to get ramped up, we started with brochures and pamphlets that we were handing out at the transfer station. We were pretty active in social media, our website. The town sends out newsletters, a couple different types, and email blasts a couple times a week. Our Facebook page, our recycling coordinator was out at farmers markets, other types of town events, but really heavily at the farmers markets all spring and summer last year. We hosted a couple of presentations on backyard composting and recycling, and we got all our information out at those. We created a video, which is on our website, which we've gotten quite a few comments on. I think that, in addition to being very informative, we kind of hit the trifecta we got some local celebrities, the mayor and the town manager. Connecticut's a big basketball state, so they were pretending to shoot the food waste into the basket. Combine that with a couple of cute kids, and people were interested. So if you're looking for suggestions, that's where to go. We try to be really consistent throughout the whole process with our messaging. So here's just a couple examples of the types of materials that we gave out to people.
But I think, sorry about that. I'll turn that off in just a second.
I think it's important to be clear and consistent throughout. We did have, sort of a learning experience. Our community composting program did not accept as many types of materials as the food scrap does. It's really just for leafy vegetables and yard waste. So there was some confusion at the beginning there between what's acceptable at each of the 2 different types of composting programs. But I think we've worked through that. We started off with the collection at the transfer station. That's actually not a metroSTOR unit. It's any resident can get a free permit to the transfer station and they could drop stuff off there. So in the first 2 to 3 months, we collected a little less than a ton there, but it was also a good way for us to give out information. We also gave everybody a 5-gallon composting bucket and additional information on how to compost and a roll of 25 compostable bags, suitable for use at, for acceptance at the AD facility. And then middle of last April, we really got the satellite collection units up and going. I would say that, our startup costs were on the order of $20,000 to $25,000. Some of the work we did in-house, whether it was the public works department, placing the collection units around town, or, our own coming up with some of the marketing materials and the educational materials. But our hard costs were about $25,000. And as we've progressed during the course of the last year, I would say that collection costs, and disposal of the material is running about double what we pay to get rid of, collect and get rid of the municipal solid waste, so the curbside trash. So 6% of our transfer station users are registered. We're getting, right around 75 regular users every week. Goes up and down a little seasonally. We collected 15 tons in the last year. And, as I was talking about the program with folks here, sometimes we'll get people call, there's an issue with the foot pedal, or one of the units was down for a little while. They all love the collection program, even when they're calling to complain about something. Just a little background here. So the pie chart on the right, those are our 4 satellite units. And you can see the majority of them are at the senior center. We get a lot of activity there. And the other one is at a park, the park with the pool. The smallest section is at one of the libraries in town. And I think that, we may look at in that one. It's not in a very visible location. And then you can see, our monthly, in good months, we're collecting anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 pounds in a month right now. So the locations are very important. There's just like real estate, there's 3 locations, location. But one of the issues we had this year was, one of them's just off the edge of a parking lot, and the highway guys hit it with a snowplow, and it was down, or at least not operating well, for a couple of months. So, you have to be careful where you put them. Nice shady locations, accessible, but not too close to traffic. If the other things we learned, get good batteries. At the senior center, the mobile app is a little bit of a challenge for some of the older folks using that facility. So we may get a new unit with a pin pad instead of a mobile app, or get one where folks can access it either way. We like the mobile app because the folks who are contributing really want to do it. And so we get almost no contamination. We're only getting materials that we want. Provide good program information and updates it. We'll start to see little dips, and then we'll get the word back out again, and people say, oh yeah, and start bringing their food scraps to us again. Maintain a good relationship with your vendor. They've been out, helped us when there's been some issues, whether it's caused by our residents or our town, or, there was a recall that we didn't know about, but on the tops of the machines, and they were right there and took care of things. And just as you go through, things change and conditions change, and try to be adaptable, to help grow your own food programs. So it's a lot of information, but thank you very much, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. That was very insightful. Thanks for sharing all the numbers as well on cost and how the metrics kind of shifted after you started. Let's continue with Emily Williams, City of Hailey.
Okay, so my name is Emily Williams. I'm the Grants and Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Hailey. We are a small town in South Central Idaho. You can go to the next slide. But we've got just under 10,000 people. We experience really long winters here. It's usually 5 months of winter and snow. And we are a very touristy population. We have a large influx of tourists every season. We're just south of the Sun Valley Ski Resort, so a lot of folks are coming through here to access the recreational opportunities around us, which presents a little bit of a unique challenge for our waste stream because we have so many tourists who are coming to visit us. So our landfill is also located 100 miles away from us, and so was one of the heaviest components of our waste stream was organics, and our residents started asking if we could find a way to divert the organics from the waste stream from both an economic and an environmental perspective. It made sense to try to keep that organic waste here in the valley instead of trucking it 100 miles away. So as a city, we started looking into various options. The first one that came up was a curbside composting option, but it wasn't embraced by the community because it was going to add significant cost to their pickup fees, and many people said they already composted in their backyard, and so they wouldn't necessarily benefit from the program. So we kind of kept brainstorming and decided that we should try to offer some residential food waste collection bins as a community project and see how it went. So we applied for grant funding from the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, and we were selected and were able to purchase these community compost bins. They're open to the public 24/7. People just need to have an app or the keypad code, which is on our website, to access the bins. And our local waste hauler comes through and picks them up twice a week to just keep all the smells down, and it's taken to our local commercial composter. We do use large compostable liners in the bins to help cut down on the mess a little bit, which has been really helpful to decrease on any sort of odors coming from them. And they are large. We have a large size. If they're 55-gallon carts in there, we were a little nervous that it would be really heavy for the trucks to pick them up, but it has been fine so far. So we started out with 3 bins in our program, and 4 bins was in our first order. 3 of them used only the app to unlock them. 1 of them just used the keypad, and we wanted to try both types of bin at first in our community and see how it went. And it's turned out that the bin with the keypad has been by far been our most popular bin to use. We found that a lot of folks don't want to have another app on their phone. And so while we really benefit from having their contact information available through the app, and I can reach out if there is any contamination in the bin, which we've had almost no issues with, but every once in a while there's some the Keurig cups are in there. And it's been helpful to be able to contact them. People really prefer the keypad. So our program was so successful that we decided to expand, and now we have 3 of those bins that can be unlocked with either the keypad or the PIN number, which has been really helpful. We're lucky in that our commercial composting operation can take pretty much anything. We do accept BPI certified compostable items, and people do really appreciate that. They really like having those liners in their countertop compost bins. We don't accept yard waste, and that was a little bit contentious at first with the community, but the bins would just fill up way too quickly if we were able to offer that. The program has been a huge success. We were been shocked by how popular it's been. I had set aside quite a bit of the grant funding to do outreach and try to get people excited about composting, and we ultimately diverted most of that funding into purchasing additional bins because we had such a huge amount of compost that we were collecting almost immediately. We're a really pretty small city, and so have been pretty impressed by the numbers of food waste that we have been able to divert. This is the only outreach that we did. We sent out this postcard to everyone that lives in the community. The lower right picture is the front of the postcard, and the other is the back side. We have all of our materials in both Spanish and English because about 50% of our community is Hispanic. And we have some more resources available on our website that go into exactly what we need to, what we accept. I'm seeing a couple questions in the chat about the code, and people can scan a QR code on our bins, and then it takes them to our website, which just has the code available on there. And that's been enough of a informational area for them to be able to just type it in and use it that way. We don't have any additional training program. This has been a pretty simple program for us to implement. Our biggest challenge was that those large 55-gallon bins were too tall for folks that were in wheelchairs to access the bins. So we worked really closely with metroSTOR to get this ADA compliant bin. And it has just gone in the last month or so it's a new addition to our program, but it's been really well received, and we're really glad that we're able now to provide better access to everyone. And then, the only other sticking point has been a little bit of education around that app use, but it's been great to just have my contact information is available, and I can just usually call people and talk them through how to use the app pretty quickly. It's like once they have it and they make sure their Bluetooth is on their phone, it's been a pretty seamless transition. Overall, it's been a really, really successful program. We feel really lucky to have been able to implement it in our community and to have this grant funding. And I think that we're going to leave it open for questions at the end. So happy to go into anything in more detail.
Thank you very much, Emily. Let's move this forward with Michael Helmbeck, City of Coconut Creek. Hi, Michael.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. You can go on to the next slide. So I from the comments and from the previous presentations, I see people are in different modes of where they are with this process. Some of you considering it and others further along. So we're moving a little more methodically here in Coconut Creek as we implement food waste drop-offs. And here's just a sample or some information about the community. About 60,000 residents, 8,400 of them are single family, another 20,000 are multifamily units. A lot of those are those big 400 plus unit type communities. For those of you that are familiar with Southeast Florida, we're west of Pompano and northwest of Fort Lauderdale, mostly a bedroom community. Even though we're a mid-sized community, we've been kind of a leader countywide with solid waste issues, often taking on the larger issues and providing leadership in that area. Our city commission has always been very committed to processing waste locally or close by. There's an industrial area to the east of us. We've tended to use those facilities for processing our waste, whether it's recycling or anything else. And we've been very anti-landfill. There's a very large regional landfill immediately adjacent to our community. So we suffer significantly from issues related to landfills, odor, groundwater contamination, etc. All right, next slide. I'll go back one more slide. I'm just going to say I included that picture. Anytime I offer a program up, and I kind of get the side eye, I say, this is on the back of all of our vehicles, innovative, inclusive, and progressive. So I always use it as an excuse to promote anything progressive. So as typical, I think with a lot of you, our neighboring communities have started drop-offs or we're thinking about starting drop-offs. They've been approaching commissioners about it. We actually have a community composter and that's our contractor for this program. They're immediately outside of our city limits in an unincorporated area. And then also, since the fact we already were operating a recycling drop off in the community that's only open on the weekends. So it made a perfect opportunity for us to go ahead and implement a pilot food waste drop off. So, we had the typical concerns, as everybody does, with contamination issues related to food waste drop off, as with any waste drop off. My previous position, I worked for the city of Gainesville in their solid waste department, ran their solid waste department. So they had they've got a big belly. Mostly they use for collection, litter cans and recycling and open area. So I was familiar with the value of these type of containers, where easy, it's contained material, contains odors. It's a noticeable container. So we knew that we wanted something like that instead of just a 96-gallon cart at the drop off. So the way we started it was we wanted to do a pilot, and we initially wanted to limit it to a certain number of people. We chose 50 people. We thought that would be very manageable. And as it turned out, that's been good. It's also created a little bit of exclusivity to the community, where, when it's open to everyone, people don't take as much responsibility for it. So that's been real good for us. So yeah, so the people that signed up, and I think I saw a comment in there. So you have to go to our website and read about the program and what you can and cannot bring to the drop off. Because we are limited to just a few folks, we've decided to use the key code for metroSTOR. And then what we did is we tried to set up each participant up for success, right? So we gave them a 5-gallon bucket to store their food waste outside of their home if that's what they wanted to. We gave them a kitchen collection pail, the typical 2.5-gallon that you see out there. We also included some compostable plastic bags, about 100 or so, to start them off. And so I would say, and I mentioned that I had done some stuff with Big Belly in the past. When we were looking at the type of containers that were out there and the availability, and more importantly, the flexibility that we got from metroSTOR, made them really the obvious choice when we decided to make that purchase and to have a container. And obviously, the container with the ability to put information on it. We saw in the other presentations that, even if you don't remember and not sure, that information is right there on the container for people to see, and it works out just fine. All right. Here's what's on our websites. What's acceptable, what's unacceptable. We got our graphics on there to keep it simple. Our contractor, even though it's not big on the compostable BPI or other packaging. So for his residential programs, he does not permit them except for the plastic bags. But he does include those food soiled napkins and et cetera, which some programs don't accept. So we're very satisfied with what he collects. We feel like that's easy to keep track of, and people seem to be complying real well with that. So results so far. Perfectly clean material. We couldn't be happier with what we are getting and the quality of the material that's in there. We feel like the collection container we use need to, read the material about education, and just kind of the exclusivity makes people do it right. So of those 50 people, were very clear to us that they're not all participating. A lot of people got some free 5-gallon buckets. But we kind of recognize that. We've gotten some feedback like, oh yeah, I got to get onto that. I have it. I've been meaning to do it. So that has been an issue. We did spend some money for materials and things like that, and we are not getting full participation of the people that actually do sign up. So there is some space in our container. We get weekly service. The weekly service has been fine for us. There hasn't been any odors or anything like that. We're getting about 100 pounds a week. Nothing to brag about too much when you consider when I was in Gainesville, we were generating about 2.5 or about 7 pounds per unit curbside collection. So that has been a little bit of a disappointment, but it has added some space to the capacity. So we have added city hall collection. So our city hall staff are now participating in the food waste diversion program, and we've been educating that, and that is increasing each and every week. And so moving forward, we're going to start incrementally adding about 50 people starting in the fall. We'll see how that participation goes. Then we'll add another 50. And then as we move on, as we need more equipment, we may add more sites, we'll add more containers and take it from that. Additionally, like you mentioned, we have these sprawling, large multifamily communities. Right now, we are looking to do a pilot program with about 5 of them. We would use the metroSTOR technology. We currently have a grant application out for that we feel good about. And then the long-term plan is to add mandatory multifamily food waste diversion. So that would give us the opportunity to make it available to all those 20,000 units. And at the same time, shift some of that cost onto the multifamily management as opposed to having a city-run program. And then we'll continue to add participants and look at options for drop-offs. We've looked at curbside. The fact is, the curbside collection in the buckets is not cost effective until it gets down to, about $5 per unit. It's kind of tough to justify that. And that's about it. And the last slide's got my contact info, and I know they're sending these out. So look forward to the questions afterwards.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I think we need to keep moving so we have some time for a discussion. So I'm just going to hand this right over to Todd Roth with Big Lake Organics right now.
All right, thank you. I'm with Big Lake Organics in Ashland, Wisconsin. We are both a organics hauler and a manufacturer of compost. We're located far northern Wisconsin. We're about 60 miles east of Duluth, Minnesota, right on Lake Superior. So we have 9 metroSTOR units in 7 locations, and we have 6 of those units operate with the app and 3 with keypad entry. We right out of the gate, we went with each just to see in our area what would be preferable. And it's a mixed bag right now. If I could back up and just some background to our approach, we've only been at this for about a year with the metroSTOR units. We inherited a community compost program where there was kind of a free-for-all, these drop points where any customer, any household could just bring their food scraps to this centralized location, and it ended up being a heap of contamination and yard debris and became unsightly. There was pest issues. So your typical nightmare situation. And so since we've implemented the metroSTOR units, it has 100% cleaned up any issues that we had experienced from what we had inherited originally. And our approach then with where we've parked the units is on high traffic areas, of course. So this one you see here is right at the entrance of a grocery store. So very convenient for folks in that way. Other spots were at a local college here in Ashland, and then as well as a health clinic too. And the health clinic is actually surrounded by other office buildings, so shared parking space. You park the metroSTOR unit right there, and when people come to work, they bring their food scraps with them. And that one has really proven the most successful. So you'll see, we're in a very rural area. Our total urban population is right around 12 to 14,000. So pretty small, spread out over 60 miles. So our trucks do run routes 3 times a week and put a lot of miles on. But the other factor in our area is that we have a high tourist population. And so we had to structure our subscriptions to seasonal living arrangements. So we have a lot of folks that come into the area for the summer. They want to activate their subscription. They leave in fall. We can put that subscription on hold. So our whole thing is, our billing is 30-day billing to make it more convenient for our subscribers. Like so many others have pointed out, the curbside services is just way too cost ineffective. It's too expensive. We can't afford to pay low-wage workers to drive around to everybody's house, and we can't afford the infrastructure with all of the vehicles and stuff you need with that. Plus, our model is we are trying to change the perception of organic waste diversion from being stinky, dirty, messy, to clean. And so it's really important to us that when folks empty their buckets, they have a bag liner inside. We give them instructions how to take care of their buckets. And as well, on the commercial collection side, we power wash every one of our units and the bins that go inside the metroSTOR units. The way that what metroSTOR has worked for us is that we can meet our customers in the middle, reducing miles on each end. So in a year, we've gained 113. Actually, as of this morning, we have 114 subscribers. And again, just that focus on high traffic and employment centers. So some of the key takeaways for us was you have to have a high level of customer service, especially when you have new customers onboarding. If they're going to use the app, it's going to take a while. Some people think that as soon as they download the app, it's going to work immediately, which, as we know, is not the case because of approval processes. And then if they're having issues, I literally will have people come right to my office. I will go through their cell phone with them and make sure that the app is working properly. I will give a shout out again to the metroSTOR and metroKEY folks that their help on an administrative level has been really great for us too. If there's something I can't solve, they're very reachable and very helpful. We do have a certain portion of those 114 customers that just don't do apps. We have people who live here who don't even have cell phones. So the keypad unit has been key. It comes as kind of a challenge for us because we don't see who's using those units and how often, other than the weight of material that's coming out of the keypad unit. So that makes it a little more challenging, and we don't have the ability to necessarily put their account on hold as easily as we could in the metroKEY app. And then our service driver has a cleaning kit inside of their truck. So each of our units gets cleaned on a regular basis so that, again, changing the perception of organic waste diversion. You don't want a unit that has food sludge down the side of it or maggots crawling out from inside of it. Very gross. People won't return or they'll quit. So keep them clean. And then the other thing too is there's this strange perception that composting and organics diversion should be free. And I would just argue to structure your pricing affordably, but yet so that you're covering your costs. And that's a big one for us. And I'll just say that for our subscribers, they get a 4-gallon bucket starter kit, and it's $10 a month subscription on 30-day billing. They can pause at any time they need. And then just making the final point of that, the use of the secure and the weatherproof units is a huge benefit for us. We have a large bear population, raccoons, skunks, you name it. We get 4 to 6 feet of snow every winter, and these units have performed miraculously through all 12 months of the year, and we couldn't be happier with it. So we're looking forward to getting more out there in our communities to really divert more food waste as best we can. So thanks.
Thank you, Todd. Maybe we can just stick with that because we had a couple of questions come in about your program. you answered one of them, how much is the program per month? Is that the only tier, $10 a month, or do you have other tiers? And someone else also asked if you could discuss how to structure pricing. So I guess multi.
So that, okay. Yeah. So $10 a month is the only tier. So if you subscribe with Big Lake Organics, for residential, you just get the 4-gallon bucket, you get liner bags, you get information about what can and cannot go into your household bucket. And then other information about why diverting food waste is important and things like that. And then that's basically it. And so that $10 a month for us, I work the numbers backwards. So for me to send a driver at $18 an hour with all of the workman's comp and insurance, and fuel and, the overhead cost, basically for us, the $10 is just over break even. So we're not realizing profit necessarily on providing the subscription or the service. It's more of how can we make it an affordable way to capture household food waste. That's our focus.
Do you get any subsidies or support from your local community, from your city or your county or something like this?
We do not. No, we're a 100% privately funded company.
Oh, wow. That's definitely different from the other panelists here today. And with that, I also want to open the round for more questions and answers and discussions, commentary. Eric Flores asked, what incentives do residents have or seek to sign up for a new paid service? I guess that's a challenge that all composters have, right? How do you convince people to pay for it? You said it, the perception is that this should be free, but obviously it's not. What's your, do you have some sort of line of argumentation that you like to use that works well?
I'm really transparent with inquiries. Right out of the gate, I tell folks that policy of Big Lake Organics is to pay our employees well, and that the $10 that we would charge for a subscription is basically break even for us. All we're doing is covering our costs. And, we joke sometimes about, if the recycling truck comes to your house, they don't leave you a free case of Sprite or something, or a case of beer, right?
Yeah.
What you get out of it is the fact that you're reducing methane emissions from landfills and you're improving your grandchildren's future. So it becomes a larger conversation. But really it's just brass tacks. It's like, hey, we're not making a bunch of money off of this. We really hope it's something that you can embrace with personal conviction.
Yes. So a question for all of you guys. Has anyone have experience with drop-off programs for commercial waste or business districts? I think Scott, Emily, Michael, yours is just residential, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. And any considerations doing it as a commercial, or is that something that's account based and at least that's how I know it. I don't know of commercial drop-off programs.
Yeah, we're looking at a pilot program for commercial, but it's going to be, individual businesses. I think there's plenty of food waste to fill up containers rather quickly when it comes to commercial.
Yeah. And would you then have a container per business, or are you looking for locations where multiple businesses can share one station?
We would be looking at container per business.
Okay. Yeah. A question for Todd. Do you allow participants to use their own compostable bags?
Yes, but we require that they're BPI certified bags. And then an alternate to that that's worked really well for us is a regular craft paper grocery bag.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I actually I thought about this when you mentioned that you power wash these stations regular. Are you using liners in your drop-off stations?
No. So we're using a 64-gallon toter inside the metroSTOR unit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That does not have a liner. That comes straight to our facility. It gets emptied, power washed. So when the exchange happens, the new bin that goes inside, or the toter that goes inside the metroSTOR unit, is always power washed clean, free of odor and any sort of like residue. So when people open the hatch, there isn't like a waft of nasties, you know. Plus, during summer, we're servicing those instead of once a week, twice a week.
Okay, just like they do in Hailey. And because I thought when you said that you power wash them and clean them, I thought, well, maybe you don't accept compostable products, and that's the reason why. And so you're not taking the power washer to the station, you're bringing the toter back to your operation, and then you have that cleaning kit to just kind of like do the stuff on the rims and
Yeah, at the site.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
okay. Great. Thanks for clarifying this. Someone asked, what are the steps to get these bins approved or registered through your municipalities? Who were the different divisions you had to get approval from? What were your biggest challenges? So did you need to get like a building permit or something like this? Maybe Emily can share some.
Sure. No, we had our city council approved our grant application, and so it went through the public process that way to get that funding. And then I guess I forgot to mention this, but our bins are located at a few grocery stores, at a community park, at City Hall, and at the post office. And we just worked with those businesses directly, and asked if they were okay with having them there, and they were fine with it. So we didn't have to go through any long formal process.
Was that similar for you, Scott and Michael?
For me, yeah, all the bins are located on public property, town-owned property. So the process from the town side was very easy.
Yeah, there's no requirements by the county or the state, you know, with the volumes that we're collecting. So we're good.
Okay, so pretty straightforward then is the answer. And then another question is there any perceived challenge or competition from existing private solid waste companies that make revenue on previously undiverted waste? Todd is shaking his head. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would even argue that, you know, because of the weight of food waste, you know, and the density, a lot of times the garbage hauler will see their margin increase if someone takes on a food waste diversion program, because they're not going to pay the tipping fee for that food waste at the landfill, and the customer may not be, you know, reducing their garbage service at all. So it's actually, you know, a benefit to the garbage hauler to have it get out of the waste stream.
Yeah. And I guess it's also about the context of each community. But I mean, we heard that, Todd, you're operating within like a 60-mile radius. That's pretty wide. And then we also heard that the landfill is like 100 miles away from the city of Hailey. So yeah, I think it's at the scale that we like you started out like with just 50 participants, it might not be as noticeable, but the more it gets, the more noticeable it becomes. So someone asked, what are each of your payment platforms for billing and subscriptions? I think that's the question for Todd, because for the other cities, you aren't are you charging for this program?
No.
Okay. Todd, what's your billing platform? Can you share that?
So yeah, it's as simple as going to our website, signing up for a subscription. That comes to me as administrative. I approve that. And then I send each one of those new subscribers an email that lays out instructions for how to download the metroKEY app to their phone. And if they don't prefer, how to access the keypad code. and then they're pretty much off and running at that point. So I usually hear back from the subscriber if they're having any issues, or in the metroKEY portal, I'll see their name pop up. I immediately approve them. I usually do a follow-up, like, hey, how are things working on your end? And then, like I was saying earlier, it's a 30-day billing cycle. So it's that $10 a month. They, at any moment in time, they can send me an email or go into their personal account and request to pause their billing. So
Yeah. Well, I guess it was probably the question was like, what are you using, Stripe, or do you know what payment provider you're actually using?
so if they sign up via our website, it is either PayPal, Venmo, or you can use a straight credit card.
Okay.
If somebody shows up here to our office, we have Stripe.
Stripe. Okay. I have a question. Do you change the codes of like the access codes? I mean, if it's a free program, maybe it's not as important, but if you have the app versus the access code, do you like change the code every 2-3 months or something like this? Okay. Yeah. I also wanted to give a big thanks to Natalie from Rust Belt Writers, who's been answering questions here in the chat, sharing their experience. That is really kind of you. Miranda, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yeah, thank you. So you folks all talked a little bit about the app that you've been using. I'm wondering, first of all, what is the name of the app, and did you get that in collaboration when you got the bins in place? And then my second question is for metroSTOR. Is it possible for people to get a unique code? I think that sounds like it would solve some people's problems with identifying who is using the bin that's not using the app.
Yeah, I think that's good commentary. Nigel could probably, I don't know how long the code is or how many possible numbers there would be. The app is through metroSTOR. That's specific to the metroSTOR drop-off bins or the enclosures. So the app that we're talking about is not something you could use for just any drop-off station, if I understand this correctly.
So you could use one code across all the containers on the same scheme, but as it stands at the moment, it's only one. It can take four codes, but that doesn't really help you because there's no tracking or traceability of that at the moment.
Is
Working on it.
Is that something you are thinking about maybe implementing in the future?
We're always
Are you
looking
asking
at
me here?
different options.
Yeah, no, Nigel. Nigel is with metroSTOR. So I think this is probably a challenge that is more relevant for commercial haulers who run a subscription program where you want to maintain, a subscription and access and be sure that people don't start freeloading. But for the municipal programs, one code is sufficient, and then it doesn't confuse people.
Tim, I have a quick thing to add if I could.
Yeah, please.
So one thing that's worked really well for us with finding places to park these metroSTOR units is, like, in the case of the grocery store the photo that I shared, was that we are already collecting commercial food waste. So from grocery stores, schools, hospitals, restaurants, right? So if our truck is already going to come to this facility or the grocery store, what we do to sweeten the deal is offer them a free rolling toter service. So they get one free 32-gallon bin service that gets serviced once a week. If they allow us to place that metroSTOR unit there at their place of business. And that's worked really well for us because not only does it allow us to get our residential unit right there, but it also gets our foot in the door with, having kind of introducing the idea of diverting food waste from their produce department or otherwise. So thought I'd share that.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. There's one more question coming in here that I'm gonna put in there. It's how do you trace the contamination and how often do you encounter it? So do you do any sort of like waste auditing as you empty ongoing?
So here in Manchester, we do twice a week inspections of the bins, and also the hauler, who may be collecting once or twice a week, inspects the bins for contamination. If they see anything, they tell us. But
so
we don't
visual-
really have, we can't tell exactly who it is, but we just know when to ramp up our education efforts.
So visual inspections, yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody do do you ever like weigh out the contamination so you know what sort of ratio it is and Todd?
Every time one of our units is serviced, that 64-gallon toter comes back to our facility. It gets weighed, dumped, and when it's dumped, when it's tipped, we take an assessment of total contamination. At that point, we don't separate the contamination and weigh that. It just literally goes in the garbage. But we do get metrics on total amount diverted per unit, if that helps. But the contamination is literally handpicked out at that point. And I will say that, again, because you have people who are invested personally in diverting their food scraps, the amount of contamination is so low, it's almost negligible compared to a school or a restaurant.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And someone wanted to hear a little bit from Emily about, how you contact people about contamination. What sort of outreach do you do?
Yeah, I check the bins twice a week as well, just to see how they're looking. And if I see that there is something in there that shouldn't be, I can look on the app website and see who has accessed that bin since it was last emptied. And then I'll usually just reach out to all those people by email and just blind copy them and just remind them of what we do and do not accept. And that has been really effective and is really simple and easy to do. And it's definitely a benefit of having the app and using that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sylvia also asked if we could share all the links and resources from this chat. I think we will. We're definitely going to save this chat, and maybe the metroSTOR team will kind of give a summary of all the stuff that was going on in the chat. And Alex asks, what is a reasonable estimated weight of organics per bin for a high performing location? Maybe you can compare it to like a lower and a high performing location. How many pounds you get out there per week? Or
So we use 65-gallon toters, and at our lowest unit, we're probably getting between 50 and 60 pounds in a week. And at our highest one, it's ranging from 240 to, I think I'd see as high as 275 pounds in a single pickup. At that point, the collection truck is having a little issue lifting that up.
oh yeah, can only imagine. Todd is also nodding. Is that similar?
Yep, I concur. That's almost exactly our numbers as well. Yep.
Okay, so between 50 and 250, depending on the frequent. I love that we still have so many people here, going a little bit over time. That always signals to me, that people are really interested and engaged in this, and this is why we're doing this. To encourage people to implement their own program, to show that it's possible. It's easy to start, even with a small number of, a group of 50 people, and just get started and continuously grow that program. And I think we've achieved that today. So let me say thanks again to all the speakers who joined us today. Emily, Michael, Scott, Todd, thanks for sharing your stories. That was really insightful. And thanks to all the people that joined. Like I said, if you need any sort of support to implement your own program, please reach out to me, to Nigel, metroSTOR, and we'll help you. We can connect you, we can provide resources for you, and yeah, let's make Compost mainstream together. So thank you all for being here today, and I wish you have a great rest of your day.